Hello, everyone. Today, I'd like to talk about what I feel is the best song that represents New York City. Now, it doesn't have to be a song with New York City in the title, but it should pretty much represent New York City. And I don't want it to be generic enough that it can represent any big city in the world. Doesn't matter. It has to be specific to New York City. I also want to eliminate what you would call like art. I know there's a lot of artists based off of New York City, and they would sing a lot of songs that maybe were experiences living in New York City and things like that. I want to, but it's not explicit in New York City, so I want to eliminate that as well. And I know there's albums that the one I could think of is Lou Reed, New York, that talk about New York City as a whole in the entire album. I want to eliminate that as well. I just want what I consider the best, most perfect song that represents New York City in my eyes. Now, disclaimer: I've never been in New York City at all. The only thing I know about New York City visually is from watching TV shows or movies that were done in New York City. So you would see, the streets, the people, the bodegas, stuff like that. That's my vision from it, as well as from reading like news, things like that, politics, stuff like that, coming from New York City. So that's really my take on New York City. I've never actually lived there or ever visited there, so my take on what a perfect song that represented could be totally off. I don't know. It may be if you find out what it is. And for me, New York City is one of those places where I always thought I would go, and mainly for business, not necessarily a touristy thing. Mainly because I'm also from a big city, so New York is like the same thing, just maybe bigger and dirtier. I don't know. That's the impression I get from other people. But if I'm offending you, sorry about that. That's the thing I always hear. So it's just a much bigger, dirtier, ruder city than other big cities here in the U.S. or maybe in the world. So, but going back, so I'm kind of looking at the list of New York City songs, and the most recent ones I could think of are like Taylor Swift with her "Welcome to New York," Jay-Z, "Empire State of Mind," which I really like. Beastie Boys, "No Sleep Till Brooklyn." Now, to me, that's just I don't think that's a song that represents New York City well, but the big thing the main thing at first I would have thought it would be this. Okay. Billy Joel. So New York State of Mind. That's probably one of his more popular songs. And I know that song really well. Not to be confused with Nas's New York State of Mind, which is a good one as well, more from a lyrical perspective. So, but not at the moment. Now, there's other songs like, I'm trying to think, Benny King, Spanish Harlem. I'm pretty sure he's talking about the New York City the part of that. Heck, Aretha Franklin sang that one. That was a good one. Can you even go back to the Drifters with Benny King and the Drifters on Broadway? And there's a lot of songs we're talking about Broadway now. Come to think about it, Bee Gees, Nights on Broadway. Ironically, the Bee Gees did New York Mining Disaster 1941. I know it's not really a true story or anything like that, but it's the good and the bad. Bee Gees. Speaking of bad, the one song that comes into mind is Jim Croce. He did New York is not my kind of town or something, or not my kind of city or anything like that. I don't think that would be a good representation of New York, regardless of his experience, in my eyes. Now, I know Ray Charles did one just the opposite. New York is my city, or my kind of city. Besides, but there's a lot. There's a lot of artists that sing about New York City, but the one that really I can think of, especially as a kid, that would be comparable to Billy Joe would be Frank Sinatra. And his theme from New York, New York, I really love. That's the song I kind of think it's a pretty good representation of New York. He also did Autumn in New York. It's more of a kind of a jazz standard. But then again, Frank Sinatra is that. So, that's another song I can think of. But going down these two artists and their songs, respective songs, it wasn't until much later, I'd say in the mid 2000s or so, when I heard this song. I'm going to play a little snippet for you. Okay, it's the song Native New Yorker. It's by Odyssey. It's this one. So, yeah, it's a disco song. And the one I just played is actually the 12-inch version of it that you can listen to on YouTube. And when I first heard this song, it's one of those that it was really catchy. I had to kind of really listen through it deep. And this group and this song rarely comes out, right? Odyssey, really, that's this hit and maybe another hit. But Native New Yorker is one of those songs that just doesn't get played on the radio, especially when I was a little kid. I never heard of it till much later. But when I did hear it and was able to listen over and over again, I got this great vibe from it. I mean, to me, it's not just a vibe like a disco dancey vibe, which it has totally, but it has to me, a New York City vibe in a sense. Living there, I can totally, from the music standpoint, with that piano going in and just the way it's singing, kind of laid back, and it gives me that New York City vibe for some reason. And again, this is coming from a person that never ever lived or visited New York City, but this is from everything I've seen on TV, the news, movies. I think it represents that vibe well from what I've seen. And even the lyrics, I mean, the lyrics like, love is just a passing word, it's the thought that you had in a taxi cab and it just never got heard. I'm probably butchering the lyrics right now. But when he dropped you off at East 83rd, I mean, not only the lyrics are pretty slick, but, I can totally feel the vibe, the experience of being in New York City and having to say something like that, even as a visitor, just I can picture it. Just picture in New York City touring around, whether the Wall Street district, the business district, or the Broadway stuff, late night, things like that, and just playing this song. And I think it just feels, for me, totally appropriate. It has that energy, you know what I mean? It has that energy of what you would get if you were living or visiting New York City, in my eyes. So, and not only that, I just love the song. It's one of those good disco songs that doesn't wear you out, put it this way. And in my opinion, this is the best song that represents New York City. Now, I'm pretty sure many of you will have different opinions and whatnot, but yeah, this, again, with the disclaimer that I've never been there, to me, this is the best song representing New York City. Tell me what you think. Hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks. Bye.